This episode of Video Fashion News is très chic. We go inside the museum at FIT for Paris, capital of fashion, then step into the Video Fashion archives with the City of Light's most renowned designers. Christian Lacroix takes us behind the scenes at his Paris atelier, just before his couture creations hit the runway.
My two favorite words is a little paradoxical, but I used to say something with muscle, but with poetry. Yes. And this is for me what I'm looking for in my life.
Flashback to the 90s with Gianfranco Ferré for Christian Dior and the iconic Hubert de Givenchy. Later, the industry remembers the esteemed Yves Saint Laurent.
He really was the king of fashion, and he defined very much the aesthetic of that period.
Plus, Karl Lagerfeld's spectacular Spring 2011 runway for Chanel.
Completely overwhelmed by the whole thing. You have a show like this that reminds us all why we're in fashion.
But first, we visit Fashion Avenue for a lesson in Parisian style.
Kicking off New York Fashion Week, the museum at the Fashion Institute of Technology opened a dazzling exhibition titled Paris, Capital of Fashion, featuring approximately 75 fashion ensembles dating all the way back to the 18th century. The exhibit explores how and why Paris became the center of the fashion world.
The thesis is that Paris became and remained the most glamorous and competitive fashion capital, despite competition from other cities like New York. Not naturally, because designers didn't just spring up like mushrooms along the Seine after a rain, but because Paris was constructed over a period of hundreds of years as being the capital of fashion. And that this was not just a product of French propaganda, but actually was something that many people and groups participated in. For example, many people made money or attained prestige in New York by being associated with Paris fashion or by rebelling against Paris fashion.
The exhibit takes visitors on a voyage through time, from the splendor of the royal court to the rise of haute couture in the 19th century, right up to the runways of present day.
We have here sections on Charles Frederick Worth, Coco Chanel, Christian Dior, Yves Saint Laurent. We have some really amazing pieces by designers as different as Doucet and Rick Owens, the American who's made his home in Paris, where he shows he's become a really integral part of the Paris fashion scene.
The work of the late great designer Karl Lagerfeld is prominently featured throughout the exhibit.
Karl is featured here both under his work for Chanel and also work that he did for Chloe. I think Karl's main importance had to do with his reviving of the House of Chanel, because it was, of course, so famous for decades under Gabrielle Chanel, but after her death it sank into irrelevance, and he performed a kind of shock surgery on the House of Chanel and woke up the Sleeping Beauty and renewed all of the tropes of Chanel, making them relevant for new generations. Paris is seen as sort of the ultimate stage to present fashion. The point of the show is to show it's not just always like that. It's something which occurs in time. It occurred in the late 17th and 18th centuries in conjunction with the court at Versailles. It happens again in the later 19th century with the rise of the haute couture. It happens repeatedly in competition with industrial fashion in cities like New York. It, of course, goes into a very deep decline under the Nazi occupation and then revives again in the late 40s and 50s, the sort of golden age of the haute couture, and then revives again repeatedly as recently as the 1990s and with the 21st century. Ironically, with globalization and the proliferation of fashion capitals in cities all around the world, Paris has only become more important as it creams away the most successful and most talented designers from around the world.
What does the future hold for French fashion?
Only up and up, I think.
Gianfranco Ferré for Christian Dior creates a winter celebration of femininity. This season and every season, the power of Dior revels in fine tailoring.
Dior it's a product that has to be in the time, it has to to be something that collects love, romantic, and modernity at the same time.
And Ferret blends all those elements with witty accents. His newest jacket of the season has dandy flair. Ferret's tailoring is the highlight of this season. But it's his long, curvy jacket and stretch pants that are newest and most modern for fall. Zippers accent the sleekest looks this season. And with a touch of romance, Ferret swings with dramatic black coats. The princess line gives velvet a crowning touch. Ferret takes his tailoring into the night with sleek pantsuits that sizzle in red. And the glow of satin shines with an overskirt and pants, an indelible Ferret signature. Flirty lace and tulle are bow-tied with romance. But grand evenings belong to Ferret's dramatic creations. Gianfranco Ferret, tailoring romance at Christian Dior.
Just off the Rue du Faubourg Saint-Honoré is the hectic studio of Christian Lacroix. We visited him there during a fitting 2 days before his haute couture show.
These fitting days are always the most awful days, because it's the point when the clothes and my mind and the sketches have to meet with reality. And if everything is as I wanted it to be, or even more, why not? Sometimes it's even more beautiful, or beautiful surprise. And sometimes it's the wrong model in the wrong outfit, or sometimes we are a little bit disappointed about the making or an embroideries. It's hand-painted, so at the very end of the week it was impossible to ask the girl, the artist, the painter, to do more meters. So we had to manage, and we gave first something which was a little bit too stiff, so we cut everything and we just put this fairy dust on the bottom. In ready-to-wear, you never meet with the customers, but with couture, they are like patroness from the Renaissance, because they are spending money, and this money is provided to all of the craftsmen people we need. For me, it's closer to theater when I'm doing some costumes for a singer, for a dancer, for a comedian, for an actress. It's exactly the same. It's wondering who is the lady, who is the customer.
When the master is satisfied, the look is camera ready.
Photo.
2 days later, at the Centre Pompidou, Christian Lacroix presented his perfected looks with 2 long-term collaborators. Seamstresses finish last-minute hand stitching, then each ensemble is photographed for the lookbook.
Of course, when I start sketching, I have an idea. And at the very, very, very beginning, it was like African or Oceania, big hairdo, but perhaps a little bit too impressive or operatic for my kind of clothes. At the end, I much prefer something more coquettish or more elegant or more charming.
almost always the case that nobody does it better than him, but I think the show yesterday was so special in that he managed to get the lightness that we've seen everywhere, the kind of light volumes, fabric folding, but with, as light as it can be. Color sense was, again, it's always incredible. It was particularly incredible. I mean, the pinks were particularly vivid, the yellows particularly strong. And I just think it showed what he does at his best. And it had all the humor that he likes, that touch of ethnic embroidery, that interesting clash of colors, or, funny plastic embroideries, or, the amazing rose bags. But it was never like costume.
It's a signature. You can feel, you know what is a Christian Lacroix, like image of woman.
I know now, 20 years later, and with 25 years after Patou, I know that my style is not fragile, but with a lot of, it's delicate and strong in the same time, perhaps very excessive, very eccentric, but with something which is femininity.
For me, Christian Lacroix is really fairy tale, and it's always like very, very sensitive, very delicate, very surprising, very violent. There's a lot of emotion about La Christian Lacroix.
Starting from this collection, we'll do many sketches during these 6 next months, because each customer now wants something very personal, very unique. So they'll tell, oh, I like these stripes, I like these sleeves, please sketch me this. It's one piece for one girl, one woman, for just one moment. It's really one of a kind and made. These words are a resume of couture. All designers like to be unique, but you have to have something in common with the world and with the other people, and be connected with the métier, with what we are here to do. My two favorite words is a little paradoxical, but I used to say muscle poetry. Something with muscle, but with poetry. And this is for me what I'm looking for in my life, in the world, in my work.
He dressed women the way they wanted to be dressed.
In June 2008, Yves Saint Laurent tragically lost his long battle with brain cancer, and the world mourned the loss of one of its greatest couturiers.
When Yves Saint Laurent has influenced every single designer working today, and the great designers will fully admit how strong an influence he was on them.
Yves Saint Laurent was undoubtedly one of the most influential designers of our time. For over 4 decades, he intuitively understood what women desire. He was the man who put women in pantsuits, transparent blouses, ethnic looks, and of course the tuxedo. All fashion images that we take for granted now.
If you were someone who grew up in the 60s and 70s, Yves Saint Laurent is incredibly important, because during that time he really was the king of fashion. And he defined very much the aesthetic of that period.
In 1957, at 21 years of age, the young designer took the helm of the house of Christian Dior after the master's early death. In 1962, after a troubled time in the French army, Yves returned to the fashion business and opened his own couture house in Paris with partner Pierre Verge. It was the beginning of a 40-year collaboration that would produce an archive of some of the most influential couture. They also created Rive Gauche, the first ready-to-wear line from an haute couturier in 1966.
For Saint Laurent, the most important thing is his relation with women. Chanel gave freedom to women. And many years after, Saint Laurent empowered women. That's, for me, it is the greatest achievement of Saint Laurent. And for that, he gave the men's clothes to the women. He gave the suit, he gave the tuxedo, he gave the trench coats, so many things.
In January 2002, after more than 40 years revolutionizing the way women wear clothes, Saint Laurent announced his retirement. In what could only be called the biggest fashion moment of the season, the 65-year-old designer declared the permanent closure of the Saint Laurent couture line. 16 days later, Saint Laurent bid farewell with a grand retrospective show. He presented 280 iconic looks from his 40-year career, which reminded the audience just how much a part of fashion's vernacular the Saint Laurent signature had become. In 2004, Saint Laurent and Pierre Berger opened their foundation, which now houses 5,000 haute couture garments and 15,000 accessories and sketches from the great designer.
I would like to be remembered with respect. Since my time at Dior, I've learned from Christian Dior that fashion was not at all a futile profession, where one amuses oneself, but a very profound and respectable thing.
Mais une chose très profonde et très respectable.
It's a really touching moment, but what an astonishing accomplishment that he had, and also contribution to fashion and the way women feel and look about themselves. That creativity is astonishing.
For more than 40 years, Yves Saint Laurent captivated the world. His creativity, elegance, and passion will be missed.
Hubert de Givenchy always delivers refined gentility.
Always, you must be honest with your customer. And I try to be honest to my customer. I have a very good customer for the boutique and for the couture, but this customer is looking for something to wear, and not only for one season, but to wear, for many other occasions. And this is my conception.
Givenchy's concept is based on classically correct clothes. Cropped jackets become a focal point.
I continue the same silhouette of the last winter collection, and we have so much success with the jumpsuit, Of course, in the summer collection, you have a blouse, many other things, short cocktail dress, completely in my own way, and I think I realize it's a good way. I like beautiful fabrics, and I think, of course, navy blue and black and beige is good for summer, but I like bright color too. And maybe more evening clothes and many jumpsuits for the evening in crepe, Moroccan or different navy blue crepe, because I think it's another way to dress for the evening. It's more easy, more casual.
But for killer nights, Givenchy's simple sheets knock them dead.
Certainly, this season in the couture is the best season for many years, and this is important, principally in the period of time we live now. But more customer, more order, good. This is very exciting.
The excitement of understatement from Hubert de Givenchy.
Inspired by the 1961 film Last Year at Marienbad, designer Karl Lagerfeld transformed the Grand Palais exhibition hall into a French garden, reminiscent of one of the film's iconic scenes. The connection between the film and the house goes even deeper. The wardrobe of the film's leading lady, Delphine Seyrig, was designed by Coco Chanel herself.
I love Chanel. Who doesn't?
Attention, s'il vous plaît, les interviews.
It's just a great mixture of ultimate elegance, but with a twist of it being contemporary. I mean, that's what Karl Lagerfeld does. He takes the heritage of Chanel and just makes it every time contemporary, new and fresh. You know, he's got a million ideas, and you know, he never ceases to surprise you, and that's just, it's genius. He is a genius.
I thought the Chanel connection was absolutely incredible, and Karl Lagerfeld put on a show which really did France proud. We had the Paris Philharmonic, an extraordinary urban garden that he created in the Grand Palais, and it was really a magnificent spectacle, and it made you understand how important Chanel is to French culture and to French industry, but really it's running like a seam through the French character, and I thought that was really on show today.
This time the entire Grand Palais was this kind of formal sort of parterre, but done in a kind of moonscape with sort of fake lava rock in black and pebbles and stones. And the catwalk alone was 350 meters.
I absolutely loved it. It definitely was one of the highlights of Paris Fashion Week so far. So such a beautiful collection. Wearable, the feathers were beautiful, the new length that he showed, it really was, from head to toe, a winner.
Every look that came out was, you know, one more perfect than the next, and the music, and obviously this, you know, very grand setting at the Grand Palais. I mean, it was everything combined.
.90 models, and Inès de la Fressange, who used to be the original Coco Muse, returned to the Chanel catwalk after an absence of 21 years. So it was sensational.
That was so unbelievable. I'm completely overwhelmed by the whole thing. You know, we've been away for a very long time, and just when you're ready to go home, you know, you have a show like this that reminds us all why we're in fashion and what a genius Karl Lagerfeld is, and the opulence of the House of Chanel. It was just a magical, magical experience, and I'm very grateful to have had it